isn't feeling so good, so I'm just going to make sure he's okay over there. All right. The next thing we're going to go into is we're going to do the Golden Hammer Award, and this week I'm going to give an honorary Golden Hammer to Judge Robart for standing up to Trump. We're just going to give him an honorary Golden Hammer because there's a lot of issues there with that immigration policy, but the point is that Judge Robart really did stand up to Trump, and that's good because that's how a government needs to work. People need to stand up when they think something isn't right instead of, again, following blindly. Now, the real Golden Hammer Award is going to go to someone who's very beloved in the community, and that is Cal Weary. And I'm giving that to him for his wonderful A Soldier's Play that I had the opportunity to see last Friday, so we're going to give him the lovely Golden Hammer. I have a few pictures. Ace, can you put the pictures up there, please? And I will talk over them. It's a great play. Took place at the Jewish Community Center, held it. You can see that's the cast, and there's Cal in the cast, and I asked Cal if he would hold up the little booklet, call it the playbill, but it's not a playbill, it's the WAG bill. Okay, you can go to the next one. Let's see. Oh, there's the actual WAG bill, the guide that was given to us. Okay, go on to the next, please. All right, and that was, I believe, the set there, which is really, really good. So I just want to read because Cal's much more eloquent than I am about this, and I just want to read what he wrote about his play because I think it's so profound, so telling, and this is what he says about it. He says, "The world is going through major changes, and the way we look at each other has forced us to see each other in different ways. I remember in school my teachers always said to study the history of our past, to not repeat again. A Soldier's Play is more than just a production. It is a lesson in race relations. As you watch this gem from our past, I hope you are affected. That the themes and culture of old open your mind to the sad possibilities of the future. But more than that, I hope that this play gets you talking and expressing your inner thoughts about racism and how we as a people recognize and defeat this monster. There are those out there that want to keep us divided, but we are united. We share a common story, a connected thread, and have more in common than we can sometimes see. Open your eyes tonight." And just for everyone's information, next week on February 16th, which is our show's night, at 7 o'clock at the Dream Rights Center, Cal is going to have a conversation with A Soldier's Play. It says, "This insightful evening will include excerpts and short scenes from the play, followed up with an opportunity to speak with the director and cast about the power and themes of the play, and delve into the director's vision and actor's process in developing their characters." Tickets are $15, and they're available at Dream Rights. And I will put all this information up on the Knowledge is Power web Facebook page so that people can access that. But yeah, this was a really great play. I can't say enough about it. And Cal, all the actors were amazing. These young people are just so amazing, and it was so powerful. It was somewhat uncomfortable. There were moments where, Ace's mom commented to me that she cried during a couple of the scenes, and I said, yeah, I was close to tears too, but it was very, very, very moving, very good. So thank you so much, Cal, for presenting that to our community, and looking forward to the one next week. Of course, this week we have our old friend here, Stinky, and Stinky this week is going to go to Senator Pat Toomey for ignoring his constituents' wishes. Pat Toomey had people, we had Tuesdays with Toomey, they had people calling, writing, visiting his office, telling him they did not want him to vote for DeVos as Secretary of Education, and what happened? She got in anyway. So you're going to give Stinky to Pat Toomey for that, and hopefully if Mr. Toomey doesn't get his act together, vote him out. You have that right. Last week we started a new little award that I like to call the Feisty Fox, and I gave it last week to Deb Yannick for her her little adventure that she had at a Bill O'Reilly speaking event where she was asked to leave because she had a pussycat hat on. This week, I thought, I have to give the Feisty Fox this week to two of my favorite ladies in the world. Ann Clark. Ann is running for city council. She was on last week, and she's so amazing, and she really does believe in she cares. When she's saying that she cares, she really does care. She believes in the community. She believes in being available to everyone and being accessible to everyone and trying to work with everyone on moving our community forward. So Feisty Fox to Ann, and also Feisty Fox to Carla Christopher. Carla has been picked to work at the York Votech or York Tech for the whole racial issues that have been going on there for years and years and years, apparently. I'm kind of a newbie here. I moved into York in 2012, so don't know what happened before that. But apparently this has been a long-standing issue. The racism over there has been a long-standing issue. And Carla's going to be put in a position to try to help facilitate that conversation. I've heard some people kind of suggest that she's being put in that role for a public relations move, and I really don't believe that's true. I think Carla is the real deal. I know Carla personally. I like Carla. She's going to be on next week. We're going to have a show on advocacy, and Carla's going to do the majority of the talking next week and educate everyone on how to be a good advocate. So I want to wish Carla all the best with that. And also next week, Carla's going to be part of the Strand, at the Strand Capitol, the production, the Vagina Monologue production. And I think tickets are pretty much sold out at this point. So anyway, two other things here quickly. Next week is Valentine's Day, and I just want everyone to be aware that just because, you don't have someone isn't the end of the world. There's still plenty of things to do, no reason that you should be lonely. Call a friend who's also single, go do something fun, go see a movie, go buy yourself a box of chocolates. Don't get so hung up on what society thinks that you should or shouldn't be doing. So just something to think about for next week. And one other thing that I want to add before we turn it over to Bob is there's been this trend on Facebook of people unfriending other people because they don't agree with something they say. And this isn't something that they're saying that's horrifically racist or sexist. These are things that are just pretty minor things. Like someone just has an opinion about something that someone else doesn't agree with, and they get upset and they unfriend them. And first of all, we're going back again to the conflict is good. You don't have to agree with somebody all the time. That's the way life is. You're not going to agree with them all the time, but there can be enough other things that you have in common that will make up for that and will be a benefit to you remaining their friend versus unfriending them and walking away in a huff because they said something you didn't like. And the incident that I saw was someone on Facebook had said something that they didn't feel that Melania Trump was being abused, and other people believe she is being abused. And just to set the record straight, nobody knows what's happening in that marriage. None of us is privy to it. We don't know. We can only speculate, and a lot of times speculation isn't good because we have no way of knowing. We make judgments. The judgments aren't true, and then things get into a big brouhaha like this, and people are unfriending each other, and it's just silly. So just stop it, just stop it and start concentrating on things that really matter, like communicating, making our community a better place, making sure your neighbor is safe, and all those other good things. So with all that being said, I'm going to turn it over here to Bob. I asked Bob to be on the show because, as I said, he has started an online newspaper. It's called the York Examiner, and he brought his little sign here. And we're just going to let Bob talk basically about why he started it, what he hopes to achieve from it, what kind of issues are going to be presented in it, and we also have some photos too, so we'll show those as you talk.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
Like you, I'm relatively new to York, and I've lived in cities, large and small. Cities of the size of York. I lived in Ithaca, New York for a while, which is almost the same size as York with a college. And it's been a real interesting experience to be here. I'm retired, so I have more time than I used to. And so I've been exploring York, and I see some wonderful things here. I'm kind of an architecture buff, and this city has such a deep resource. When I was in architecture school, we used to get in buses and go to places and look at cities, but this should be a destination for architectural tours.
It's amazing.
It is.
Yeah,
you can walk 5 blocks
some
and
of
see.
the buildings are absolutely amazing and gorgeous.
Well, the way that styles and stuff. But anyway, that's one of many kind of exciting things about York. But there's also been some pretty deep disappointments, I have to say. I didn't expect as many gunshots at night. A man 14 doors down from us was shot in broad daylight about 4 or 5 months ago. And that's, well, I've lived in some rough, I lived in the West Baltimore, out West Pratt Street, which is, actually makes York look pretty mellow. But, so I'm no stranger to urban living, but my summary feeling is that a city of this size, 44,000 people, probably shouldn't have the degree of violence and difficulty and strife that it has, that I experience. And so I've been thinking about that, and I want to kind of switch over here. The reason I started this newspaper online is that I'm interested in media. I wrote a newspaper column in Ithaca for the Ithaca Times. In high school, we had this great teacher who started this radio station. We used to do music on weekends. The FCC allows you to have a station, or at least it did then. This is, decades ago. That if you didn't broadcast over 20 miles, you could have an AM station. So media has always interested me. And what's going on now, this last Super Bowl weekend, I had like a media revelation. We gave up TV, and we're just streaming now, which I recommend. It saves $40, $50, $60. And I probably shouldn't say this in the Comcast building. Lock the door. But you can get most everything you want. It's a little glitchy. There's buffering right when the guy puts the gun to, I'm going to, and then you get the circle. So once in a while. But it's a new technology. It's kind of like when TVs came in, you had to put aluminum foil on the rabbit ears to get it right. But streaming is going to be everything, I think. I watched the Super Bowl, and there are only a couple times it streamed. And I just could see that what we get our news from, which basically is the YDR and the Dispatch, and shows like yours, and Facebook. Like I'm on York City Tired of the Violence. That's good news about violence in the city. The way that streams. So that I came here, or I thought I'd come here a couple weeks ago when Wanda invited me to talk about some of the specifics. But I think with the time left, I'd like to talk about the quality of news and how are we going to make this transition to streaming. How is a city this size, we're a county, the county has almost 500,000 people. And the city is about 10% of the county population. So it creates a rural-urban dynamic that's interesting, but I think frustrating, particularly if you live in the city. I think we have not our fair share of problems. And to compare it to Ithaca, the rural and urban part of Ithaca was much more integrated than here. I don't know why. I don't have an answer for that.
That's true. There is a big divide between, and it's said all the time, there's a divide between the city and the county.
Oh yeah, it's like it's amazing here. It's it's hard for me to understand. But that's one of the reasons I started this. I want to understand that more. And I want to understand how to get news to people. People are getting their news from Facebook. They're getting it somewhat from newspapers, but I read somewhere that the Daily Show is like a big source of news for people. And that's on the Comedy Channel. It's a little surprising and scary, but so I want to create something where there's contributions. Call me an old hippie, but I think that things can grow organically.
Mm-hmm.
And if what I'm trying to create is an environment where people can write something that's worthy
Mm-hmm.
of being read by many people, and kind of being somewhat of a gatekeeper for that. And the information about that is on the Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
You have to scroll all the way to the bottom about the process that I envision. And interest people in real-time news that's not news cycle driven. One of the problems, and I'm not criticizing the YDR or anybody else that's in the regular news business, is they're news cycle driven. Like today, it was snowing, and if you work for the YDR, and you've got a stream now, they're doing a lot of streaming. You see that on Facebook and other places. But what is it? Not much happened today. Except for snow. So I was having my morning coffee and I was watching it snow in my window, and then I was watching it snow on the YDR stream. And so that's because they have to produce news. And I want to try to do something that's not news cycle driven. If there isn't any news, I'm not going to fill up your Facebook stream with pictures of snow when it's snowing. Because I don't have to.
Right.
I'm going to be selective. It's what they call curating the news. And that's kind of the balance to being driven by a news cycle. And I think there's a real place for that. I think it's the future, and it's going to require intelligent people to look at what's going on in their neighborhood and their life and presenting it. And I want to be a vehicle for that. But I don't want to be the only vehicle for that. Wanda and I were talking before the show. I'm kind of into Roku this week because we just got it. But Roku has an app that you can start your own channel. Well, I don't have time to start a channel. It's enough to start the Examiner on Facebook. But I could see a collaborative effort to do a York Roku channel. You and I could explore that.
Yeah.
But the way we receive information is changing so much. And it's both exciting, and for me, I'm older, it's frustrating. Like you're using the word unfriend. I'm a traditionalist enough to, like, friend is a noun.
Yeah.
And every time someone uses a verb, I kind of flinch. And then there's unfriend, which is even worse. But I think we're going to have to move into the 21st century. And all I know is streaming is probably going to be it.
Yeah.
That God help people that own print newspapers. Although Warren Buffett is buying them up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he owns 76 or 78 of them now.
Huh.
And he's a genius.
Yeah.
He said people want to know who won the football game on Friday night and who died. And he's putting hundreds of millions of dollars behind that. So maybe they'll buy the YDR, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't want to bet against Warren Buffett, but I think streaming, information, gathered probably in a different way, curated in a sensible way, all a landscape that we don't yet understand.
Yeah.
And exploring that. And York may in fact be a great place to do that because it is so York.
Yeah, it's very diverse too, and we have one of the issues that I see, and being a member of the York Dispatch Advisory Board, one of the issues is the reporters just can't go out and do whatever they want. They can't just go out and follow up on a story that's really interesting. They have to have permission to do that. And the editor has to have permission to print things. And so there's this chain of command. And there's so many stories out there. There are so many people out there that really are experiencing, I hear them all the time. I've had a lot of them on the show. There's amazing stories. And I just was at a committee meeting yesterday for the Feeling Blue. And Feeling Blue is a website about depression and, signs of depression. There were two young women at the meeting yesterday, and they are trying to put together some kind of resource for the Hispanic population. Now, this is something that is really interesting. These are two young white women too that are trying to reach out to the Hispanic population and help them understand these mental health issues. They're doing it as a project through your college. But these are the kind of things that are really interesting we don't hear about.
Yeah.
we don't hear about stories of, one of the things that we talk about too is all the diversity in the community. And how do we get all these different people to talk about their stories? That would be a great way too.
Right.
To have, someone talk about, how is this impacting me? We were talking a little bit before the show about the ceasefire and the Harb district and the revitalization. How are all these issues impacting people that are just in the community, everyday people, not the professionals, not the upper scale people, but the real meat of the city, which is the people that are, are more living, well, because York City has a lot of poverty. So how is it impacting these people that are living in the more poverty-stricken areas?
Yeah, that's something that how, it all filters down to a person.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the articles I wrote for the York Examiner was about the Historic Architectural Review Board,
Mm-hmm.
which started in the 1970s. And I'm sure in the 1970s it was important because, things were changing
Mm-hmm.
and York was changing. But now it's huge. It takes up, it looks on the map. I think we have a map.
Yeah, do you want to show the map, Ace? Is that the pink one?
Yeah, it takes up, it looks like 2/3 of the city.
Mm-hmm.
Now, cities I've lived in, like Baltimore has a historic district, but maybe it's like 8 blocks by 6 blocks. It's not, if you did 2/3 of the city or half the city in a historic district,
Mm-hmm.
it would be chaos.
Mhm.
You can't enforce the law, and it gets, how does that impact a guy with a corner store?
Yeah.
We have a great corner
Yeah.
store where I live near Princess and Pine, and Riva's Deli. So organized, so clean, good prices.
Mhm.
Love the place. Okay, but not much room. Corner stores don't have a lot of room. So he had a vending machine, a soda machine, out on the sidewalk, and the Historic Architectural Review Board made him remove it because it's a historic district and you can't have a soda machine.
Mhm.
Well, there's nothing historic about the corner of Princess and Pine.
Mhm.
The architecture is decent, but there aren't many outstanding buildings. You go down a couple blocks and make a right, there's some very interesting buildings.
Mhm.
But right there, nothing.
Mhm.
So for him to lose that machine was a significant part of his income.
Yeah.
And he's a guy with a family, he's got 2 kids, and he's saving up for college. And that vending machine was a major, well, I'm not going to say major, but a significant stream of income for his small business. And the irony of it is that you go down to Pandora's, there's a vending machine in front of there. That's in the historic district. And I see them everywhere. Why was his taken?
Mm-hmm.
You see? And so what happens when you get these huge districts, you can't enforce the law, just by the nature of it, you get selective enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like a roulette. If you're the guy that they decide to take the machine from, you're the guy.
Yeah. And there's also been some issues with, because I'm involved with Bell Socialization, I know there's been some issues with buildings that they own that are in these districts that they have to replace a window or something.
The windows, yeah.
And it's an extraordinary expense. They're trying to house people, and they're spending all this money on a window.
Right.
Whereas, maybe $500 something on a window, well, that would help. That would really go to help put somebody in another place or redo another place for them to put someone. Yeah. So there are legitimate issues here that need to be addressed.
Right, and there are legitimate historic issues as well to balance. There are some, like I started by saying, there's fantastic architecture here, but it's not all fantastic. There may be a building or two on a block, or there are whole blocks. But to just take one big paintbrush and paint that part of the city, that I know a professional office in the city that wanted to tear down one of the ricketiest brick garages on the alley to make more parking, and they wouldn't let them tear down an alley garage, for professional office parking. That's ridiculous. But again, it's something from the 70s, and I always threaten to start the it seemed like a good idea at the time museum or Hall of Fame, but things that seem like a good idea at the time in 1970 and in the 20th century, in the 21st century, may not make sense and may be costing jobs, may be costing income, may be costing present-day York that really is a marginal city. I wanted to mention this. The county of York, the average income is $58,000. The state average is $55,000. So the county of York has $2,000 higher than the average income. Home values in the county are $168,000 versus state average of $170,000. Very close, a little less. But in the city, incomes and housing values are half the state average. That disparity has to be dealt with. And the Architectural Review Board is one element of that. That if you have to put this window in, that may not build the equity that putting in a new furnace would.
Right.
See, so it's skewing decision-making processes all over the city. And it's outdated. It needs to be reviewed. There needs to be a cost-benefit study for the homeowner and for the business owner. And it needs to be done soon. Because if we're going to open up this city to more jobs and more prosperity, we're going to have to remove impediments. That's I think the place to start. I got a door hanger from the Mayor Bracy, big door hanger, that said, if you want to start a business, we're going to have a seminar. Well, boy, that's talk about old media, door hangers. I haven't seen a door hanger in a long time. And I had to wonder, since everybody on the block got one, and most people on the block have jobs, that chances are that maybe one person's thinking about it. But I was more hit by the fact that it was a political thing. And I can appreciate the sentiment of let's support people that want to start businesses. But I want to question whether a door hanger, that many door hangers, what did that cost? Is the way to do it. We need to be smarter about how public tax money is spent. Architectural Review Board, city paid for door hangers, the list goes on. I don't know how much time we have, but I have a list.
Oh, yeah, we have time. We have about 25 minutes.
Okay.
So we have plenty of time.
25.
We have plenty of time for
Don't
you to go
get
through your
me
laundry
going.
list.
Well, you shouldn't kick people when they're down, but I think the story of the prison is hilarious. It's sad.
Do you want to show the picture of the prison?
Yeah, well,
please?
most of us know what the prison is.
Yeah.
But this is a, talk about the, it seemed like a good idea at the time, Hall of Fame. This is a candidate. The RDA, well-intentioned as they were, went after this building and used eminent domain, which is another issue I think the city has, the use of eminent domain. It seems to be
I've heard that.
somewhat overused. But maybe after this it won't be.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're now...
A lot of these complaints that, these issues that you're bringing up, I shouldn't say complaints, issues that you're bringing up, I have heard before. So this is something that the community has on their mind. It's just, how do they go about having their voices heard, working with the powers that be to help change things?
Yeah.
That's the issue. But go ahead about the prison.
Well, a family bought it a long time ago. I forget. There's a summary. I think the best summary of the whole process is on the Facebook York Examiner. I
did read the story.
I really researched the heck out of it. They've owned it. They paid taxes. They've got some abatement here and there, of course. But anyway, they've legally owned this property, and the RDA, operating, I think, probably in a vacuum, decided it was worth $68,000 and offered them that. And they said, no, it's worth more. They had it on the market once for quite a bit of money. It's in the article. I can't remember, but I think it was 200,000 or something.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Anyway, blindly went eminent domain. And eminent domain law, you can't, it's not a kicking tire. It's like we think we might need your building or we might need your land to put a road in. Eminent domain is an extreme case law where you must need it. Government must need it. And so they take it. So you can't use it to kick tires. When you use eminent domain, you own it. So the RDA took the prison and owned it, and the price was not established. They were convinced it was worth $68,000. Well, the owners hired a very nationally prominent attorney who got somebody like $10 million more than they expected on a property in Las Vegas, I found out. That's not in the article. But this guy was good. He's from Philadelphia. And if anyone's got eminent domain issues, his name is in the article. I would hire him. He's worth every penny. He got him $1.25 million. Now, that can be, there's already been one test in court, and the RDA lost, the city lost. And so the city taxpayers are on the hook for $1,250,000. Plus, there's fees and other expenses. You know, if it goes back to court and they lose again, this could easily reach $1.5 million. And we're not a city that can afford a frivolous payment,
Right.
like $1.5 million. Think of what that could do.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, police officers, you know, whatever your favorite issue is, $1.5 million could be really well applied. And we're on the hook now. Legally, the city is on the hook. Okay. So that's I call it the belly flop from the high board. But some of the other things the RDA has done. I have a friend, Karen Ruffini, that has Karen's Bakehouse, little plug. She used to sell at Penn Market, and she grew up in Washington Borough, across the river.
Yeah.
And her
I grew up in Washington.
Did you really?
Yes, I did.
You did? Oh.
River Road.
Really? Wow, you should.
I was down below the dairy, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know where Karen lived there.
Yeah.
But anyway, she went to the Columbia Market with her grandparents through the summer selling produce. And she just, and her fondest childhood memories are markets. So she's baking and selling, you know, around the county. And so she liked Penn Market better than Central, because Central is like a little too hip for her. You know, that it's Penn Market is a real farmer's market to her. And there's like the Cronisters that sell there are very nice people. They got great apples and peaches and stuff. Anyway, that market is failing, and I don't want to go into that, but there was a gentleman who wanted to buy it, a businessman. He has the Asian store in the corner. Pinglin is his name.
Okay.
You ever been in that store? Talk about needing to expand. I mean, he's got, you know, oh, you need that tea? Let me get a ladder. You know, that's Ping. And his story is great. He came over on that Golden Dragon boat, the famous that ran aground. They ran out of everything. They were 4 months at sea, and it's like a 110-foot boat or something. There were like 320 people on it. They went around Cape Horn, and, you know, sad to say, like, people got washed overboard.
Oh yeah, that was.
Like,
I remember watching that. I remember they made the origami.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that whole. That was some amazing story. Many amazing stories, and just the whole thing was
to
so
survive.
convoluted and
to survive it. And Ping is such a nice man, so he survived that. And then, talking about a segue. And he arrived in New York because they arrested everybody, and there wasn't prison space down in Long Island, so some people came to York.
Yeah.
Ping came to York, the prison.
Yeah.
He was in there.
Yeah, I remember that too.
And
I was in Lancaster at that time, but I remember hearing all that on the news.
Yeah, he spent, I think, I can't say, but less than a year, I think he spent in the prison. And then he got deported to Venezuela.
Well.
I know. I mean, this is a movie.
How's that work?
This is a movie.
Yeah.
You know, Ping is a movie. Great guy.
See what we're saying? Like these community members, you guys have great stories.
Yeah.
And we need to hear them.
Okay. So Ping lives in the city, successful businessman, owns his own home, owns his own business, has bought some investment real estate. And the old-time farmers that own the market, Penn Market, just, they've all left. I mean, and it's struggled, and there have been some problems. Ping wanted to buy it. And he wanted to double the size of his store. He wanted to keep some stalls, keep it farmers market, do a food court. He had some great ideas, and the RDA didn't even want to talk to him. Yeah, he'd have kept it on the tax rolls, but the RDA made a deal with the farmers organization, and now the RDA has title.
Okay.
It's not taxable. It's not a taxable piece of property. How many more properties can this city take on as ownership and take them off the tax rolls? See, that's an addiction of this city. Too much real estate that's not taxable. Okay, so that's a story that needs to be explored. And I went to the RDA, I spoke, they give you 5 minutes at the beginning of the meeting. I went up to a microphone and I addressed the board, and I said, and there was a reporter there from the YDR. And I said, there's a guy who wants to buy this. And we're in the dark, about it. What's going on? Nothing in the paper. Nothing, just next thing you hear, RDA takes it over. Okay, that's... Then my other favorite one's the Danskin. Can we have the picture of the Danskin property?
Yes.
This, maybe if you grew up in New York, this is okay, and that isn't a criticism of people, but it's just picture one of those movies where there's an atomic war and like 8 people survive. Those movies. That's what the Danskin plant looks like. They bought it for $25,000. Again, seemed like a good idea at the time. And then got some money to demolish it, but it isn't totally demolished. It is filled with Yeah. Okay, now, there's residential properties all around that. That's a 4.2 acre site.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah. Now, let's say your mother lives in one of those houses that looks over on that, okay? And she's elderly, and she's got to go into a nursing home. She's got to sell her house. How do you think her house is going to sell across the street from that?
Yeah, it's not.
It's not going to sell. Or it's going to sell for nothing.
Exactly.
Right? And so her retirement is out the window that she planned because the RDA took that property and did that to it. It wasn't a bad-looking building before. I don't know if you can, but I went on Google Streets and I drove around it. Nice looking building, and they tore it down. Plus, at one time,
You can take it down, Ace. Thank you.
Now there are people called site selection people that work for companies that look for sites to build buildings for commercial, industrial, whatever, residential. I checked with a site selection person, and the first thing they do is they want pictures of a site before they, because they might be based in Cincinnati or Kansas City or someplace. If they're working for Chipotle or some industrial company that makes widgets, they want pictures. What picture? If I'm a site selection guy and that picture, comes in the mail or over my, and I click on it in email, I go, I'm not going to come to York and look at that site.
Yeah.
Like I said, unless maybe I'm going to make an end of the world movie.
Yeah.
It's a great place to shoot a movie if it's that. But why did the city redevelopment authority buy that and half demolish it? And against their stated mission, devalue all the real estate around it by creating a trash heap. That's unconscionable. Anyway, I'm gonna stop with that. The RDA gets about $500,000 in tax money, city money a year, and if they're putting us at jeopardy on the prison for $1.25 million, if they're devaluing blocks like the Danskin blocks, if they're not working with business people who are successful and determined like Ping. If there's a golden hammer for determination, I vote for Ping getting it. getting beached in Long Island and in Venezuela. 8 years he spent in Venezuela. And there's a lawyer whose name I wish I could say, I don't know, who kept in touch with him to bring him back to the U.S. I mean, there's an award.
Yeah.
Ping stayed in touch for years with this attorney, and this attorney brought him back to York. That's why he's in York.
Oh, wow.
And what a great asset to our community.
Yeah.
You know? So there's some great stories here, and there's some, I'm going to say, stupid stories. Just plain stupid. You know, you can't call it anything else. We've got to get smarter. We've got to get information out to people. You mentioned the ceasefire program. I researched the heck out of that. And I did a story on a thing called Cure for the Violence. Uses a whole different model. The program of ceasefire is a sociological model. Mediation, training for jobs, carrot and stick sociology. Might work, I don't know. The cure violence model is based in epidemiology, science, hard science, that if somebody gets infected, the infection moves in certain ways. And they've done scientific studies that violence moves a lot like an epidemic, like an illness.
Yeah.
It is an illness, a social illness. So the model for cure violence is very interesting. It doesn't have as many moving parts. I'm always suspicious of programs that have a lot of moving parts. And the ceasefire one, where you've got the communities committing jobs, and then you're training, and there's mediators, and then they got to get there quick, and it's a very complicated machine. I don't know. I hope if they do it, it works. But maybe there's other things to look at before, Somebody I met, a new friend I met here, told me about the city bought
10 minutes.
Bought a program that listened to gunshots and identified where they were. Do you know about this? You're kind of new here too. This was years ago. Maybe somebody could come in and talk to you about this. But somebody, the Flim Flam man apparently, was selling a program that listened. It was a kind of a sonar program that you set up these microphones and it triangulated, and it told the police that's where the gunshot was. And so the city spent a lot of money, and it didn't work. So maybe that's a lesson. This friend of mine was saying that there wasn't enough research on that sonar gunshot identify location fiasco. It was very costly, and maybe a higher level of research will take place on whether it's ceasefire or whether it's cure the violence. But anyway.
Well, I can comment a little bit on the ceasefire.
Okay, great.
This is what I know about, and Mary Bracy said she'd come back on, so she comes back on. Maybe we can talk a little. Maybe her and I can talk a little more about exactly what's happening with the ceasefire, because there really hasn't been. I'm trying to give everybody the benefit of the doubt here too. There hasn't really been any updates on what's happening, but I know professional people who are involved with the project, and I'm not going to say any names, but I know them, and they're very reputable and they're credible people. And apparently, the ceasefire model has changed somewhat. Now, I'm not sure exactly how it's changed, but the professional that I talked to, who is also she's well respected in the community. She said that it is, in the areas that they're implementing it, it has brought violence down about 30%.
Wow, that'd be great.
So I'm not sure exactly what all that entails. I think the York Dispatch is going to follow up, because they have talked about following up on that. It's pretty much what happened was, when all the ceasefire, when all this came out, we had Sean Cotter, who was the reporter, city reporter at the time. He was doing all this research, and he was sort of following the story. And then he left, and we got someone else in, and things kind of, because there's not always a lot of staff either,
right.
Which is part of the issue with our papers is, not the YDR is pretty well staffed, but the Dispatch has had staffing issues because of budget cuts and other things going on. So it's not always easy for them to get the news out, which is, I think, why it is important for the community to start trying to get together and educate each other on what's happening out there, so we can have these conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've used the right to know law
Mm-hmm.
to get information, and I want to say that Pat Seibert, who's in the solicitor's office, is very efficient at fulfilling those.
Yes, I had a couple about
Yeah.
one or two occasions that
That's
And
part of the city government that's working.
Yeah, they're very good over
Yeah.
there. Mm-hmm.
I've got one in now for something I'm working on, and it's voluminous, and they just wrote me a letter saying, but I think we should have enough real-time information
Mm-hmm.
in this day and age that we don't, maybe to go back historically, the right to know is useful, but you shouldn't have to use right to know to find out what's going on with ceasefire.
Yeah.
And if they've changed it, how? Is it simpler? I hope they've made it simpler.
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
pretty
I can't speak to
Yeah.
that. I just know that
Yeah.
I know that my friend was pulled into it because of her background.
Okay.
As I guess, I don't know that she's really being a consultant, but she was pulled into it because of her background. So it has changed, or she wouldn't be involved in it.
Great. Okay.
But I just don't know how it's changed.
Well,
Yeah.
As a traditionalist that doesn't like friend being used as a verb,
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see more policemen.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, we've had some interaction with the police because of things that's happened on our street. And I have to say, every interaction I've had with the York Police Department has been positive.
Mm-hmm.
I think the officers are professional,
Mm-hmm.
timely.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say anything bad about the police department. And so that raised the question for me.
Mm-hmm.
If we have such a high-quality police department, why is this still a problem?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know the answer to that. My gut, simple arithmetic says, well, if they're good, then more is better.
Mm-hmm.
And that may be true of police. I'm not a law enforcement professional, and I don't know much about it, but like when I see things like the prison situation and like a $500,000 RDA budget that is stopping ping from expanding a business, I see that money going to police.
Mm-hmm.
That's my assumption, because I see quality. Where I see quality, I want to feed it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's me. But but here we are talking, both of us ignorant of what's going on. You see,
Yeah.
that's the thing. That's the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Is two people who care, who are interested, don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem. We don't know. And we need to know more.
Yeah. And it is hard to find out sometimes. It's hard to get to the truth of things.
Yeah.
Because we have so many sources, and then there's so many layers of this. And I think the other thing that people forget about is none of these officials exist in a vacuum either. They have others that they interact with. They have others that they may have to answer to. So we don't know exactly what happens behind closed doors either.
Well,
And that's another issue, because if we understood why a decision was made, then people may not be so up in arms about it.
yeah. Well, transparency in government is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we have it. I really don't.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons. There's supposed to be a two-party system. The city's one party.
Mm-hmm.
That could be part of it. Because if you don't have that check and balance, then everybody who's talking to everybody about things like ceasefire are all from the same party.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's testing the ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another issue.
Yeah.
Maybe for another time. I see his hand waving.
Yeah, Ace was like, we have about 3 minutes, Ace 2 minutes, about 2 minutes. We have about 2 minutes, so I guess we probably should just wrap it up at this point.
Thanks for having me.
So you're welcome.
Really enjoyed
it. And it really brought bring up some interesting points and issues. And how do we get our information? What information sources do we get it from? Who do we trust? Who do we not trust? And I think the idea of having some kind of an outlet where people can actually sit and tell their stories, because this is once a week. This is once a week for an hour, and I can't do any more than once a week. But it would be really nice to have a venue where people could express themselves, because there's a lot of people out there. I mean, one of the stories that was last year, I believe, the buildings over on West Market that were, the landlords went MIA.
Oh, yeah.
And,
I remember that story.
Yeah, and they had to shut it down because it was in such bad repair, and people were left without homes, and it just, that kind of thing. And I remember YDR, Mark Walters actually did the article, I think.
I read it.
Yeah, had a picture of the woman in that filthy room, and and those kind of things. I think we need to have people that have courage and come out and speak about these things. Yeah. And I know it's hard, I know it's scary, but the more we come out, the more we speak, the more other people will follow the lead. And pretty soon you have an army of people speaking. So so anyway, Ace has given me the 1 minute warning, so I'm going to end it here. And next week we are going to have Carla Christopher on. Hopefully she'll get someone to relieve her at her class so she can make it here, because last time she ran into some problems with that. She made it here, but she's a little late. So she's going to come. We're going to talk about advocacy. We're going to do a whole show on advocacy. Carla's going to basically just run the show. I'm going to be here just to kind of bounce off of her, and we want to have a good resource for people that are interested in advocating more in the community. So everyone, stay safe, stay warm, be careful if you go out there, and take care of your neighbors. Check on them, see if they're okay. Good way to. And Ace is like, keep talking. Ace wants to go. Ace doesn't feel good. He has a cold. He's tired. He wants to go home and chill.
Hi folks, I'm Steve Butler. Welcome to the garage. Today's show, we're going to show you how to make this modern contemporary coffee table. It's made out of a single sheet of plywood, a few tools involved, a couple of screws. You have a great coffee table. We'll show you how to make that in the garage.